No noise. Perfect. Okay. So good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome to yet another session conducted by the Irma Alumni Association. And this one is very special because we are going to learn something new here, particularly for those who don't do proposal writing. They would love to learn from Kirti on what exactly is proposal writing and how we can basically write good proposals to let them get cleared. And let me tell you a little bit about Kirti. Now, Kirti is from PRM 34 and she has a very good experience of about 7 years behind her in CSR. She's a travel enthusiast and she likes to write. And she's currently exploring the world. Few days back when I spoke to her, she was in Goa. Today she is in Gokarn, and she's just moving around the entire place and making us jealous with all the lovely background and scenery behind her. So welcome, Kirti, and we are very excited and happy to have you on this show. Thank you for joining us today. Very happy and grateful for your contribution. And I really hope that all those who have joined today would benefit a lot. A lot would be refreshed. I'm sure they already know few things, but I'm sure even if one little point we are able to add to our kitty today, I think it's still worth the entire effort. So thank you, and over to you, Kirti, to take this forward.
Thank you very much, Ruchi, for this opportunity. I'm very excited. I'll share my screen. Let me know once this is visible. Visible? Okay, great. So, Ruchi has already mentioned that we are going to talk about proposal writing today, and most of you would already have studied like aspects of proposal writing, but what we are going to cover here today is the whys, whats, and hows of proposal writing. Generally, if you look at the traditional formats of proposal writing, you will see a lot of things which are not very relevant to maybe few organizations or to the project. So we are going to cover the things which are relevant and which will help you design more impact-driven and impactful projects. So I'm going to start with a little bit of theory, and I will talk about one example. But I want this session to be interactive, so just feel free to step in with any suggestions, questions, comments, whenever you feel like. So it's not like I don't want, like, let's not make this a one-way conversation. It's good if we keep it a little interactive. That would be good. All right. So since I want it to be interactive, I want to start first with a question. What do you think are the key components or key parts of a proposal? So anyone can chime in or you can comment.
Can you please repeat the question, Kirti?
What are the important parts, components of a proposal according to you? When you write a proposal, what comes to your mind? What are the important things that you want to add in the proposal?
I think I need to tell what all I will do in that project and the budget.
Okay. Activities and budget, you said. All right. What else? Others?
Shreyas is saying problem statement.
Problem statement.
Vaibhav is saying, so you can read the comments, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Impact. What else? You can write in the chat section if you don't. Few more. We have said right now activities, budget, problem statement, and impact. Context, objective, approach, possible impact, broad timelines, budget, framework, result framework, scope of the project. Awesome. So we have basically covered all the things that are required, needs assessment. Yes. So all of this is very important, but the most important step when you are writing a project, any project, is the practicability and scalability of that project. So how do you do that? It has to be practical, it has to be scalable. So 1 second, I'm just trying to close my chat box, which I'm not opening. Yeah. So before getting started on the components of the project, what is essential, the key to starting strong are few things that you need to do to ensure that your project, you have thought through the project. First is to sit down. What it means is that you have to first understand what do you want to communicate. Whenever you're writing a proposal, you sit down with your thoughts, get clarity on what is it that you would want to communicate through your proposal, what is your USP, how are your strengths aligned with the relevant stakeholder. So for example, if you're designing an agriculture project and you are giving it to an organization which does not work with farmers, it's not going to work with them. So you have to first think about what you are proposing, who you are proposing it to, what you're proposing in the context of, if you're proposing an agriculture project, but you have uh, strengths in employability or entrepreneurship, then the project, you're not able to going to do justice to that project. So you need to first figure out what are your strengths and how it is relevant to your stakeholders. Second important point is to understand what's in it for you and what's in it for your stakeholder. How are you creating shared value? So the project that you're doing, it has to be valuable and impactful for your organization, for the target audience, the participants that you're going to work with, and the organization that you're going to work with. So in terms of impact, what impact you are creating, how you are creating goodwill for the organization, that is the shared value that we are talking about. So you have to be very clear in terms of what's in it for you, you as an organization, the partner that you're working with, and the target beneficiary that you're going to work with. Brainstorm the idea. Is that the best way? So whatever project you're proposing, for example, you're proposing a project for enterprise development for a particular geography, then you need to brainstorm this idea with your team to understand, is it the best way? Is there any other way, any other activity that you can propose? What will make it work? How will it work? And what support would you require? So you need to be clear on things that you would need beforehand for the activities that you need to do. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm assuming no.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little more on how do we create shared value?
Yeah. See, what do we mean by shared value? That there has to be something in it for your organization and something in it for the other, whoever you are working with. In any context, it can be in a project context or in a relationship context, in any context, like whatever activity you are doing, what's in it for you, what you're getting out of it, and what the other person is getting out of it, right? So when you are talking about a project, when I'm proposing a project to a corporate organization, they would also want to know how they are benefiting for it. See, CSR, everyone knows what CSR is, right? And although it is a MCA mandate, there are certain organizations who are doing it as a mandate only, and there are certain organizations who are doing it because they want to create impact. So for any of the whichever spectrum the organization lies in, you have to so if the organization is more focused on impact, if their aim is to, for example, Godrej aim is to create 1 million entrepreneurs, then you have to say that, okay, so through this program, this is going to contribute to your larger objective of 1 million entrepreneurs, or this is going to impact your goodwill, or this is going to impact your brand value. So when you're talking about any project, you have to also talk about what's in it for the organization as well. If they have a larger goal or commitment that they have made, if they have made commitment related to SDGs, you can say that this can factor in your SDGs, this SDG, or the larger commitment that they have. So impact is there. Impact you are going to create through your project. But what other value you can add to the organization through your program? that will help you in like building the good rapport and relationship with the organization that you're working with. And it also helps as a talking point when you are communicating your this thing on social media or anywhere else. It's a good point to for your communications, internal, external, and that is what is valuable for corporates for sure. That's clear, Richi? The next thing that you have to look at what changes you are going to make. So what will the end result, what will you want to attain at the end of the program? You have to be clear in terms of the impact that you want to create. So whatever project you are doing, you should know the ABC of what you want your end result to look like, what change you would want to see after you have completed your project. Give it enough thought, let it thaw for some time. You go back and forth, take your time a little bit with what your end result is going to be. Sometimes you write ABC, but after a point of time, you think like this one thing can also be added, or this thing can also be added. So give it some time to concretize on what your end result is going to look like. And the next and step is to take off. So you need to know what activities and resources you need for your project to take off. You have to be very clear about the activities and resources before you start the program. What activities you are going to do, what resources you are going to need. And this is very important and crucial if you want to achieve a desired impact. And the most important thing is write it down. So before even you get to writing the proposal, you brainstorm these things, these aspects of a proposal, write it down. This will act as a reference point for you to come back to when you have made your proposal, or when you are making your proposal, the pointers will help you in terms of guidance, your guiding points for how your proposal will shape out to be. So far, good? All good? Any questions? Any comments also? No? Okay. So now when you have all the information that you need to start your proposal, you have to start, then next step is to start detailing it out. To detail it out, one more thing, it is also very important to ask the right questions rather than having all the answers. So when you are starting your proposal, you ask all the questions first. Don't worry about the answers. They will come to you after discussion with the partner, after discussion with your team. But you need to ask all the right questions in order to create the impact that you desire. Okay, moving on. So when you are detailing out your proposal, you have to ask 3 questions. Why, what, and how. When we talk about why, there are 4 things that we are going to cover. The objective, very important. It is, so very important to clearly and concisely state what is expected as the end result of what you're, one second, sorry. Yeah. So very important to clearly and concisely state what is the expected end result and what activities would help in achieving that end result. So your objective statement should not be more than 1 or 2 lines. You have to concisely write that what is your end result that you're expecting in your objective statement itself, and how do you plan to achieve that end result. For example, if you are talking about improving the livelihoods or improving the income of a particular set, so you would write to increase the income of the women in the community by creating entrepreneurs. or by creating enterprising opportunities. So what you want to do, what you want to achieve as the end result, and how you're going to do that. Objective has to be like one, maximum two statements, and very clear and precise. Second thing, very important, is the background. So when we talk about background, we give a lot of details which may or may not be relevant. So for example, if we are talking about agri technology enhancement project, for example, and you are giving details of things like how the uh, soil is, how the water is, how everything is, but you're not talking about how the technology is going to help in increasing the yield or increasing the productivity or whatever your objective is of the project, then it is not going to help organization understand how your intervention is relevant. So you have to give very relevant details of particular activity, geography, and project participant selection. So details should answer the questions like, what is the current scenario? Why a particular activity is relevant in that area? How will it benefit the people? What role could it play in contributing to positive change? What development areas? It's good if you map it to SDGs and sub SDGs that you are targeting, and if it is aligned with the organization, and how is it aligned with national and global priorities. So the background details, although you can give other details also which are relevant to a particular geography, but these basic things, basic components in your background should be first addressed. And later, if you want to give like more details of other components, so for example, if you're working in an, sorry, my example earlier was not that great. I have another example which I want to give now. So if you're talking about the agriculture project or how the agriculture advancement project is going to help you, and then you are giving details of the health background of that community, that may not be relevant to that particular project. So if you're talking about agriculture project, you talk about how your project is going to contribute to development in that particular area through that particular activity. Next, why you want to do the project is to talk about the relevance of target participants, relevance of the participants with the activity that you have selected. So you have to cover the needs and acceptability of the participants for the suggested activity. For identifying the need, you would have secondary data with you, but it is good to have primary data with you. If you already have done some sort of data collection or survey in that area, then you can talk about why there is a need, and also the activity that you have selected, if you have a response of in terms of how the participation would look like. If the participants have already agreed or would they be interested in participating in that activity, if you already have that data, that really helps in strengthening your project. And and the very important factor of why you want to do the project is creating the impact, right? So you need to be very clear about what will you achieve at the end of the project. So whichever impact measurement format that you are using, whether it is TOC, whether it is, theory of change, or without bordering, or any format that you are using, make sure you have quantifiable parameters along with qualitative parameters. There, for example, you can talk about increasing the participation, increasing number of people participated in a particular activity, in a particular training. Those are more like a qualitative parameter, like parameters which does not talk about significant impact that you have created in the community. By quantifiable parameters, I mean parameters like what is the increase in income, or what is the increase in yield, or the impact that you can change, the change you can see in terms of quantifiable numbers. Qualitative parameters is good. Maybe their standard of living has increased, maybe their health quality has increased, but assign some quantifiable parameters along with it. For example, if we are talking about health, then talk about what is their reduction in the cost of health expenses, is the frequency or number of days that they are absent because of health reasons that have declined. So make sure whatever qualitative parameters that you are talking about, you have some quantifiable parameters assigned to it so that you are able to show significant impact and change through your projects. And that will work really well with the corporates or the organizations that you're working with, not only in terms of communication, but in terms of scalability as well. Because if you're able to see the change in numbers, there is high possibility of more acceptance and sort of more trust in terms of the change that you're doing. And very important to have a clear and detailed method to evaluate or a format to evaluate those parameters. There could be direct parameters, there could be indirect parameters. So for example, you have given a matrix to measure income change, but you have not determined how. In the baseline parameter, you have not captured what is their current income or what are their current expenses or what are their all sources of income. So there are multiple parameters that you have to look at. And when you are starting your project, wherever you are doing your baseline, make sure that you have a clear format to calculate the baseline of the parameters, and so that at the end of the project, you have something to map those change against. So when you're clear about what parameters or what impact you're going to create, you will be able to put it down in terms of questionnaire, in terms of measurable formats for you to be able to clearly see the change. Okay. Any questions here? Sorry. Any questions? Checklist in terms of checklist for?
Like you were mentioning about, let's say, health. So there are different domains and different topics on which project proposals are made, right? So is there a certain, can we make, if we don't have already, which we can check, let's say that if we are looking at health, these things can be looked at in terms of impact or in terms of interventions?
So depending on what your project is, like for example, if your project is talking about access to healthcare services, जैसे there are telemedicine projects that are going on. So if you're talking about access to healthcare services, then you can have a checklist basis your objective only. So if you want to provide access to healthcare services or just access to doctor, then you create a parameter or checklist in terms of where their current situation is right now. What are the in your surrounding. So in your background and baseline data, you will be able to capture like what are the surrounding, if they have access in a 30-kilometer radius or 20-kilometer radius or that sort of thing. I'll have to get back to you on this question right now. I can't think of any checklist for the parameters as such, but you can create depending on what your project is. I'll have to get back to you on this. I'm not able to. Vijay, I'll get back to you on this. Are there any other questions? Or should I move on? Okay. So when you're talking about what do you want to add in your project proposal, very crucial is to have a summary. So you can use formats like logical framework analysis, what we are going to talk about. for impactful presentation of project objectives, activities, and impact to engage your various stakeholders. It gives you a snapshot of how your project success will look like. So, in your project proposal, if you have a summary talking about what activities you are going to do, what changes you are going to see at the end of the project, that really helps in giving the full picture and understanding what you and also help in understanding your understanding of the project and the activities that you are going to do. You have to talk about the methodology. So step by step detailing out the project execution plan, which means you are talking about at every stage what the roles and responsibility and what the expectations are going to be, and what is the duration of delivery that you are looking at. So for example, if you are starting a project, again I'm taking an example of agriculture project. You are starting an agriculture project with the farmers. You have proposed it to a corporate for their particular geography. Now to start the project, you need to do a baseline survey in their location. For starting that baseline survey, your team needs to go on ground, and while going on ground, they might need support from the corporate or the organization's team at the local level, or some sort of support at the organization or the factory or whatever the local level in the project area. So you detail out every step, what you are going to do first. You did the baseline. Second, what are you going to do? What is your next step? You're going to submit a report. Third, you are going to get feedback and finalize the activities. Fourth, you are going to start implementing the activities. Or fourth, you are going to start training your resources. Fifth, you are going to start the activity. So when you are putting out the proposal, have a detailed methodology and clarify the roles and responsibility of your organization and what your expectations are from the organization at the beginning, during, and end of the project. This clarity helps you in reducing or mitigating any delays that you might face during the project. Because if you have agreed on a lot of things beforehand, you don't need to go back and forth on certain things, on a lot of things when you are in the execution phase. Because if you're very clear about what steps going to be, and you have aligned your organization also what steps are going to be, then you would reduce that back and forth in communication, and then you can carry out your project at like getting approval in one go and start carrying out the project. Next is deliverables. So when you are talking about LFA or when you are talking about your impact measurement, you have already spoken about the outputs and outcomes for the project. But in terms of deliverables, you clearly state the outputs and outcomes for the organization as well. There are certain organizations, you would know about MCA guidelines, you would know about reporting mechanisms, you would know about board meetings. I'm talking specifically from the context of CSR. Different organizations have different formats in which they want information, and the different focus on what kind of information they want. So in the beginning of the project only, in your proposal, you set clear deliverables in terms of what you are going to provide, and have a discussion with the organization what their expectation is. So once, if you're clear in terms of what your deliverables are going to be, again, that will reduce a lot of back and forth that may come while you are starting your reporting process. This comes with the question on MNE, the monitoring and evaluation. So you have your standard reporting formats that you have already that you would already be using. In the beginning itself, share how you are going to report your project activity, get alignment of the organization in it, so that at a later stage, there are the extra efforts would not be required for you to revamping your reports in terms of how the organization is working. So in the beginning itself, if you have agreed on a particular reporting format or what information they would want for you to share, it would be very it will be like, it will reduce a lot of effort. It will also reduce a lot of communication or back and forth that will be required in terms of what information should or should not be shared, or should not be collected. And this will also streamline and reduce a lot of effort from your side also if that continues, for not only for this project, for your other projects also. Technology, transparency of data. By technology, I not necessarily mean you use apps which have live tracking or GPS tagging, tagging and all of that. But you can have set rules, checks and balances in your Excel sheet or whatever document that you are using to ensure that the data is maintained. Well, geotagging really helps in maintaining the transparency of data. If you can use that, that is very good. If not, you can find other ways also to have transparency in your data. Keep checks for your data duplication. When you are collecting beneficial data, multiple, there could be chances that you have recorded the same person multiple times or for multiple projects. So have some sort of checks and balances. For example, the checks and balances we used to keep was to check the name, father's name, and year of birth of a particular person. In most cases, like there will be maybe one or two cases where all three would be same, but generally in most cases, those checks help in reducing the data duplication. And define means of data verification. So if data is collected by your whoever your team member is on the ground, maybe have a set of maybe a calling facility, a team member who calls and verifies all the data, or have if you are working on a block level, then the block level person can check, maybe make few visits and check if the data that is collected by the on-ground team. This basically, I'm not saying that there is any trust gap or communication gap between your team internally, but this helps in strengthening your foundation and your relationship with the organization, because you yourself are making sure that the data that you are collecting has gone through a lot of checks to give the correct information to the organization. So you have to strengthen your MNU also to build a very strong relationship with the organizations that you're working with. Any questions here? Okay, moving on to how. How you are going to, so we are going to talk about how you have to plan your activities, resources, budget, and sustainability and scalability of the project. When you are talking about the activities, mention the type, duration, and frequency of activities. Keep activity objectives clear and keep activities relevant. For example, if you are talking about, again, agriculture example, if you're talking about a soil health card for the farmers, that is one of the activities that you are going to do, issue soil health card. So you mention the type of activity you are doing, what is the objective of the activity, how it is going to help in the interventions that you are doing, and how it is relevant to the activities that you are going to do. Just issuing a soil health card would not help the farmers. After you have found out what the soil health is, how the quality of soil health is, what interventions or what activities you are going to do with the farmers or whoever your participants are through that activity also needs to be very clear. So what is the objective of the activity? Talking about the resources in your project, define the needed resources and associated role, duration of the resources, and mention if any training is required. So for example, If you are talking about a veterinarian, expert veterinarian that is required to give training for a particular project, so that the expert would not be required for the entire duration. Maybe they would require for 7 days or 14 days when the training is done. Before that, they are not required. So whenever you're mentioning the resources that you are going to use, you mention what is their duration, what is their associated role, and be clear in all your resources that you would be required, that you would be requiring. That will help the organization also understand that what resources you are going to use, and it will give a clear picture to them, and it will also help, like, help them know that you understand what you are doing, like understanding what exactly will go in your project and how you would want to see your project operation. Again, mention any training that is required and the duration of the training that is required. So the resources that you are going to, if your team is going on ground, they would require some training beforehand to maybe start a survey, or to maybe interact, or to communicate, or if there is an app that they are going to use, so that app usage training. So all of that mention beforehand, so that the organization is aligned with what activities you are going to do, what your priorities are, and they should be, your expectations should not mismatch. There should be a expectation alignment in terms of what exactly you are going to do in your when you are starting the activity on ground. When you are talking about the budget, a lot of organizations I have seen give like a total budget, or like a one or two or five line key, this is the capex, this is the opex. That again in like translates to a lot of discussion and back and forth when you are getting into a discussion. If you beforehand give a detailed out budget, that this is your capital expenses going to be, this is your operating expenses going to be, these activities along with the activities. So in this budget you can create a Gantt chart. In the Gantt chart you can clearly mention the timelines of your activities, and maybe like a detailed चल, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Sorry. So in the budget, give a detailed out of what your capital expenses going to be, line item wise, what your operating expenses are going to be, what your resource cost is going to be, what your admin cost or your overhead cost is going to be. That will reduce a lot of back and forth in terms of budget discussion. A lot of time goes into budget discussion primarily. So if you'll give all those activities, the organization would have a clear picture of how you have structured or categorized your budget, and they would be in a better position to have a discussion with you. If you are very clear about what your budgets are going to be, the negotiation or the discussion basically on closing of the budget would be very short, because there is very transparent, or there is transparency and clarity in terms of what you're presenting. Discuss the requirement and use of contingency fund. By use, I mean, if in case a contingency fund is not used for, you have kept it for disasters or emergency or something like that, but it is not used, then how you are going to redirect it to your activities that you're going to do. So you should have a plan also for your contingency fund, how you're going to redirect your budget if at a certain timeline, at a certain point, it is not used. And most importantly, don't forgo quality. So sometimes what happens is, in a discussion, if someone says, if the corporate is saying, okay, 45,000 में तो बहुत ही महंगा वाला लैपटॉप आता है, 30,000 में भी आ सकता है, and you think कि नहीं, 30,000 का जो सस्ता लैपटॉप है वो खरीद लेंगे, but that compromises the quality of your project and the equipment that your team is going to use. It's one example that is related to capex. In opex also, the kind of, for example, resources you are going to use. So if you're talking about an expert veterinarian who would cost 40,000 rupees, and you think it is the person is crucial to the project, and there is a negotiation in terms of no, this can be reduced, or you can get from XYZ place for 25,000. If you think that quality is essential to your project, then do not compromise on it. The corporates will understand if you make them understand. The last part is on the sustainability and scalability of the project. Whenever you are starting any project or proposing any activity, be prepared with an exit strategy. So after, say, suppose 3 years or 5 years of the project, how you are going to leave that or exit that geography. Plan for hand-holding support during the project and create community channels to continue project legacy. It should not happen that you have started a project. For example, let's talk about creating paralegals who can support in entitlements of the organizations. Sorry, entitlements of individuals. So initially you have given the training or you have given the support for unlocking the entitlements related to government schemes, but simultaneously also have people from the community to be trained as paralegals who can continue working in the location even after you have exited. And if they find value in it, if they find, and if it turns into a career opportunity for those paralegal that you have trained, how you can make that a career opportunity for them. So think about those things when you're exiting any project. Whatever work you have done till now should not discontinue once you have exited. It should be able to go on even after you have left the geography, and take feedback to scale. What I mean by that is take feedback of what has worked in that particular organization and with those particular participants, and what has not worked in that particular organization. This will help you in figuring out whatever has worked and not worked whenever you're going to a new geography or to work with a new set of participants. You would have that feedback and you can work on that feedback to see what changes you need to make in order to your project to work in different geographies. Any questions here?
We do have some questions in the chat box, Kirti. You want to take them now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Do you want me to recite them for you, or you want to go through it?
Yeah, it's fine. Your result framework, log framework is essential in proposal. It is essential because I mean, how so not only LFA, I'm not talking about just LFA, but any other framework which talks about what impact you are going to create. So you can talk about what inputs you need. You can use theory of change to present what your impact is going to look like. LFA is just one example. There are multiple frameworks that you can use to show the impact of your project. But it is essential to.
Excuse me, ma'am. Hello. मैम मेरा एक क्वेश्चन ये था कि जनरली जब प्रपोजल बनाते हैं और बहुत शॉर्ट डेडलाइन होती है, उस समय लॉग फ्रेम बनाना ये सब थोड़ा टाइम कंज्यूमिंग हो जाता है, तो वो हम अगर न बनाएं और जो मतलब जैसे एंड करना आउटपुट और आउटकम देकर लास्ट में, तो वो कर सकते हैं क्या?
वो टाइम कंज्यूमिंग होता है, बट इट इज हेल्पफुल फॉर यू इन द लॉन्गर टर्म. मतलब आप अगर अभी थोड़ा सा टाइम इसके अंदर इन्वेस्ट करेंगे टू फाइंड आउट कि क्या आपका सारा एक्टिविटीज क्या होने वाला है, इफ यू आर क्लियर अबाउट इट बिफोर हैंड, तो आपका जो बैक एंड फोर्थ होता है और जो चेंजेस होते हैं और द इम्पैक्ट दैट यू आर ट्राइंग टू मेक, that will be very clear. It will be little time consuming at the beginning, but आप जैसे जैसे उसको अपने सारे projects में करते जाएंगे, it reduces the time that you take, reduces significantly.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Ziji, how about including convergence activities? Do we need to mention in proposal? Convergence activities, yes, definitely. So whether you are talking about convergence with another, or you're talking about convergence with other schemes or convergence with other activities that are done by other corporates or organizations in that particular area.
Generally, convergence, say we mean about, the block and the officials, the government, all that.
Okay, so the role or the contribution of the of other organization, other institutions in that area.
Right.
Yeah, definitely that should be mentioned. If
See, I think the question here that we are coming to is we are slowly moving towards having a proposal which has absolutely, probably in many cases, more information than a project report would have. So how far is it practical to do something like this? Because this looks like we are heading towards putting everything in.
You are given formats of everything. So see, when I'm talking about deliverables or M&E, these are the basic things that you include in a proposal. That what activities you are going to do, what we talked about initially, right? What activities we are going to do, what is our problem statement, what is the scope of work, what is the impact that we are going to see. So all these things right now, what we do is we give in text format. This is the impact, this is this, this is this. But I'm saying if you are able to give it in a format, like for whatever activity you are doing, if you are able to be very clear and precise in terms of what you want to see at the end of the project and what factors are contributing to that particular thing, then the discussion between the corporate and between the organizations becomes really fluid, very fluid. This, what you are saying is that comes as a next step, but that will reduce that conversation to the next step and directly go to what, like minor things or things that needs to be changed, and more towards like concretization. Does that answer? You can disagree also. I mean.
Yeah, actually, yeah, okay. But I think what Dharmendra probably was trying to say was that depending on the formats given and depending on the time that is available to us, we improvise, right?
So there are certain organizations that give, even with Godrej also, we give formats that we have created for requesting proposals. So organizations do have their set formats in terms of how do they want their proposal. But if you also have a format which is covering more details than, or covering the details that they have asked for plus additional things, that way, that is always a plus. That is never a negative. And if you are giving more information beforehand, that how it is going to look, what you're going to do, how you're going to measure, it helps you building a better organization like the project. Because if you are very clear in terms of how you want your project deliverables outcomes to look like and project activities to look like, it will help you build better but yes, it's up to you, like depending, of course, depending on how much time you have, if an organization has given you only one day to submit a proposal, of course you'll not be able to include all those details, but then include the crucial details, which are how you're going to, what activities you're going to do, how you're going to measure the impact, and what is your budget and timelines that you're looking at. So you have to filter out information that is more important when you have less time. But if you have time to design a proposal, these factors, if you include it, that would be like really foolproof proposal, I would say. So moving on to the next question, Akhilesh has asked, what can you explain more on contingency fund? So generally, whenever you are designing a project, there are some things you would have captured in the budget that you would require for resources that is not maybe fluctuating. You would have calculated the cost for maybe some capex that is not fluctuating, or some activities that you have been doing on a regular basis, like putting up a poultry shed or poultry farm, that is not fluctuating. But if there are components in your proposal, in your budget, that have budget that is fluctuating, you can keep, for example, you're working in a flood prone area, and there is a possibility of your your participants that you're going to work with. For example, what happened in one of our fishery projects, it was in a flood prone area, and although everything was set up for the fish farming, because of flood it completely got destroyed, and we had to rebuild the entire fish farming units. So just one example, but if you are working in a flood prone area, have a contingency fund or any other contingency or unforeseen calamities or exigencies can occur. So if you have those components in your project, it's better to build in a contingency fund that you would require to substitute or to help with your project. And in case that contingency fund is not used during in the duration of your project, you can also talk to your organization beforehand about how you want to redirect that fund. So for example, if for suppose you have extra 6 lakh rupees and you can build 10 more fishery units from that, you can redirect that fund at the end of whatever the given period is to constructing 10 more fishery units. That's it. Akhilesh, that's clear? Yes. Okay. Shall I move on? What else you need to cover in your proposal? Add risks and mitigation plan for all your activities. Give details of your team and organizations and why you and your organization. If you don't know something, come back with the needed details. Be authentic about whatever information you're sharing and whatever communication you're having with the organization. Do a hygiene check. Use apps like Grammarly to spell check the proposal that you are submitting. A lot of time it happens that it because of time constraints and all, it skips our mind, but it is good to do a hygiene check before you are sending out. And last, bring the heart. This one thing, in one of our board meetings, I gave a presentation with no pictures and only a lot of formats and tables. And one of the board members, he told me this thing, that you have given all the details, Kirti, but you have not brought heart to the presentation. So that stuck with me. And I think when you are doing or when you are submitting any proposal or when you are communicating with any organization related to your project, it is important that you bring your heart also to that. That's about it.
हेलो हेलो
हाय
मैम मैं ये बोल रहा था, ये प्रेजेंटेशन मिल सकता है क्या जो आपने प्रेजेंट किया है?
Yeah, sure. Ruchi, we can share.
You want me to share right away, or people, those who are interested, please drop in your email IDs to me. I will forward it in the email to you. Will that be okay?
Sure.
Ideally, we wanted to, let me just quickly do a form for you for taking a feedback. Meanwhile, we can take Q&As, no?
Yeah, sure. If anyone has any questions also.
मैम एक क्वेश्चन मेरा था
हाँ,
कि अगर बहुत टाइम अगर कंस्ट्रेंट रहता है तो मिनिमम ऐसा कुछ मतलब सेट क्राइटेरिया है कि हम इतनी चीजें एटलीस्ट फॉलो करें हमारे प्रपोजल में, अगर विद इन अ हाफ डे और विद इन अ डे अगर हमें उससे बना के सबमिट करना है, तो वैसा कुछ है कि ये पॉइंट्स इसमें कवर होने चाहिए मेनली?
सो जनरली अगर ऐसा है तो द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन would also give you their format. If there is no format that the organization is giving to you, then you can primarily focus on the back. I mean, these are like basic details. You can leave out the formats for later discussions,
Okay.
but you can not give the format, but you can talk about the activities and these like how you're going to measure the impact. So basic details of your project, activities, impact, background, and budget and timelines. These 5 things crucial.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other question? Should I show one example of LFA that I have prepared? If you want to discuss.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Are you able to see my screen? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes. We can.
Okay. So this is a framework of LFA of a project named ENAC. This is very, if you are clear about what exactly you are going to do, this will be very easy to create. Like, so how do you have to do it is, this is your goal. For example, the goal of project ENAC is to improve happiness index by deepening understanding of self, others, and nature. How you are going to measure it? Like I mentioned earlier, whenever we are talking about any impact parameters, along with qualitative parameters, we have to have quantitative parameters also. So how I'm saying what my quantitative parameter here is to see the change in 50% of respondents. So right now, whatever the happiness index is at, I want to see change in happiness index of 50% of the respondent. This is my my objective and goal of the project. How you prepare LFA is you start from the bottom. You start from activities. Here you write the activities that you are going to do. For example, I've written 14 days of expedition in nature with a group of 10 people, including activities like this. How you read LFA is, if these activities and these risks are mitigated, then I'm going to achieve my output. So this is if and then I'm going to achieve my output. With my output, if my risks are mitigated, if and then I'm going to achieve my outcome. And with my outcome, if and my risks are mitigated, I'm going to achieve the goal of my project. So this is how you read an LFA. Then you add the indicators that you're going to see, the means of verification that you are going to see to map these indicators and assumptions, what you have made to create these particular components. So if these 14-day expedition happens without biases or with openness, then I'm going to see this output. 10 people will adopt new habits and these people will inspire other people in the community. If this output I have achieved and there is continuity of habits in the people, and then they have the ability to influence or help other people in their surrounding, then I'm going to achieve my outcome, which is continuity of action, more people doing, no comparison, reliable support system. If this outcome I have achieved and there is continuous encouragement and acceptance, then I'm going to achieve my ultimate goal, which is to improve the happiness index. So whenever you are creating your LFA, this is the method that you have to follow. You have to start from the bottom. You have to first figure out what activities you are going to do, what risks you are going to mitigate to achieve your output. So this has to be like this. Any questions here?
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
मैम ये जो आउटपुट है उसमें जो आपने ये डायरेक्टली 10 people will adopt new habits, इसकी जगह परसेंटेज भी यूज कर सकते हैं क्या? एटलीस्ट
Right,
दिस
right.
मच परसेंटेज पीपल कैन अडॉप्ट और दिस, इस तरीके से हम डाल सकते हैं?
Right, bilkul. So depending on what your project parameters are and what outputs and outcomes you are looking at, you can change these. So right now in my outcome, you can see that there is no quantifiable parameter, but generally whatever project you are doing, in your outcome also you should have some quantifiable parameters. So depending on your project, you can add percentage, you can add numbers, or you can add, mostly you should add quantifiable parameters. Are there any other questions? Or? Richie, looks like no other questions.
Yeah, so this sample that you have created with us, I'm sure people would love to have a copy of that as well. I'm getting some requests here. So do let me know if it is shareable or otherwise.
Hello. Hello.
LFA format, I can share one with you. It's available online. The templates are available online for LFA.
Okay, cool. So do please share with us how we can access them and all. We look like to be really novices here, and you are the expert. So we would be happy to have all the help. Mahendra, you were saying something.
मैम मेरा ये कहना था कि आपने जो ये सेशन लिया है काफी अच्छा है, मतलब काफी काम आएगा हमारे लिए। जस्ट एक ये था कि अगर हम कुछ इसमें इंडिकेटर्स के ऊपर कोई ऐसा सेशन आप ले सकते हैं क्या, कि हाउ टू और प्रिपेयर इंडिकेटर्स और लॉन्ग टर्म और शॉर्ट टर्म इंडिकेटर्स और आउटकम इंडिकेटर्स किस तरह से डिजाइन होते हैं, तो वो थोड़ा सा आप कभी ले सकते हैं क्या? तो थोड़ा सा अच्छा रहेगा, जस्ट एक सजेशन था।
Richie, what do you think?
Of course. Please आप मुझे धर्मेंद्र, आपके पास मेरा अगर नंबर है तो मुझे प्लीज अलग से आप पिंग कर दोगे, so that I add it on to my list, and we will definitely ask all other IRMANs also apart from Kirti, जिससे कि we get to learn more. And I would really request everyone so that I mean, you know, if Kirti is giving a presentation, all the others who know about the topic, you all also join in, so that we all can add and have a good discussion, right, Kirti? So,
Yeah.
Kirti, likewise, you also should join now all other sessions. I am building the audience.
Yes.
मेरा नंबर यहीं पे शेयर कर दूं या अलग से शेयर करूं, कैसे करूं?
आप कौन से बैच से हो? इरमा से हो आप?
नहीं, मैं कोहेजन फाउंडेशन में जॉब करता हूं एज अ प्रोग्राम मैनेजर।
अच्छा, तो आप यहीं पे शेयर कर दो, नो प्रॉब्लम. एंड रिक्वेस्टिंग एवरीवन टू प्लीज फिल इन द फीडबैक फॉर्म एज वेल. How many of us are not IRMANs here? Can you just raise your hand so that we get to know how helpful has this been? Okay. Please, can you drop in your contact details to me so that I will keep on updating you all also? So Kirti, we are getting in a lot of thank yous on the chat for the wonderful session that you have conducted. And just to kind of wrap up and maybe give a little vote of thanks, I would like to invite Shreyas. Shreyas, are you there?
Yep.
Hey Shreyas,
Yes.
please do the honors.
Yep. So thank you, Kirti, for taking this wonderful session. And to be honest, I was actually working on a proposal while you were giving this session, so took some inputs over there. And yeah,
I'm glad it helped in some way.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you all for joining, and please do participate in the future events as well. And we can keep this momentum going. Thank you.
So thank you everyone once again, and I would like to thank all the IAA members for being here and giving their support, and also special thanks to Kirti. Thank you, Shreyas. Thank you for all the for all the people who participated in this event. Thank you so much. It has been wonderful.
It has been wonderful.
Great audience.
Thank you, Richie, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kirti.
Really.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kirti.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do drop in your numbers and all so that I can connect to you all later.
Bye, Richie.
Okay,
bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Richie, for organizing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for participating.
It was great fun. Thank you.
Okay, closing the call now. Thank you. Bye-bye.